this blueprint is so obvious wherever you go, and the wall goes up. And there's another thing that comes up again and again, and that's people dying very strange deaths, who know things about the ring and could be very, very dangerous in terms of exposing it. And of course, Hollie Greig's uncle, who was known as Roy, he was clearly murdered after finding Hollie being raped by her father.
Yeah.
And the police said he died of smoke inhalation, when after years and years of trying, there was no investigation. After years and years of trying and pressing, eventually Anne Greig and Robert Green get hold of the post-mortem, and they find that no, he didn't die of smoke inhalation, and he didn't die in the fire that he was found in the car. He was clearly heavily attacked with something, a very heavy instrument, probably, I think it says, something like a pickaxe handle. He had his breastbone broken. He was smashed around the head, and he was clearly murdered and then thrown into a blazing car. And it's so, when you see the evidence in the post-mortem, it is so blatantly obvious that he's been murdered. The question then comes, why has McCracker's police force, McCracker's here now, he wasn't here when that happened, I think it was 1997, but why isn't that police force looking at this and seeing it for what it blatantly is? Why? Because there is a massive, massive cover-up going on. And a common theme that I've come up with when I've been going into this story is Edinburgh University, and particularly the law department at Edinburgh University, which keeps coming up. One of the major aspects of this ring in Scotland is that it was involved with Thomas Hamilton. Thomas Hamilton was a Freemasonic paedophile and procurer of children for the elite establishment, politicians, etc. in Scotland, who one day in 1996 walked into Dunblane Primary School with, I think it was 4 guns, and killed 16 children and a teacher. Now, there was an so-called investigation into that, which was clearly a massive cover-up, and it was headed by a man called Lord Cullen. Lord Cullen, he studied law at Edinburgh University Law Department. Now, just after this inquiry had made its cover-up, and had closed documents relating to the case for 100 years. What? A man called Lord Burton, a former Grand Master of Scottish Freemasonry, because like I say, they're not all involved in this whole thing, Freemasons. There's a lot of people in Freemasonry, the vast majority, I would say, have no idea this is going on. Anyway, Lord Burton came out in a national newspaper and said that there was a massive cover-up going on involving the suppression of information about Thomas Hamilton and what really happened in the Dunblane killings, and who Hamilton was connected to. And Lord Burton said it involves a elite, what was described as a super Masonic group called the Speculative Society, which was based at Edinburgh University Law Department. Lord Cullen, who oversaw the inquiry into Dunblane, was, and probably still is, a member of the Speculative Society. Then you look at the other aspect of this. The families in the Dunblane inquiry of the children were represented by a guy called Peter Watson of a law firm called Levy and McRae. Lord Cullen also oversaw another inquiry in something called the Piper Alpha inquiry, which was a disaster involving an oil rig in the North Sea. And the man who represented the families in that was Peter Watson of Levy and McRae, their major litigator, head of litigation, I think. And the Lockerbie bombing, which brought down the plane in 1988, a man represented the families of the victims of that, and he was called Peter Watson of Levy and McRae, and Peter Watson studied law at Edinburgh University. When people started in the last few weeks exposing the Hollie Greig story after the arrest of Robert Greene, letters started going out warning them of legal consequences from Levy and McRae and a man called Peter Watson. Lord Cullen was also involved in the Lockerbie situation, where a Libyan called al-Makrahi was wrongly jailed for what was actually a bomb planted by British, American, and almost certainly Israeli intelligence, the Mossad. And Lord Cullen was involved in overseeing the first appeal against the sentence by al-Makrahi. Now, the Lockerbie situation locks in to all that we've talked about here, because al-Makrahi was sentenced to imprisonment in Scotland because they had to have a patsy to cover up the fact that it was done by these intelligence operations, military intelligence operations. And he was completely and utterly stitched up. The evidence was fabricated, the whole shebang. Now, when he had his first appeal, the one that was overseen by this Lord Cullen guy of the Speculative Society at Edinburgh University, it was turned down. But his lawyers pursued it further, and they won the right to a second appeal. Now, this second appeal was going to be very, very different, because evidence had come to light, and these lawyers were going to reveal it, of how evidence was planted. People were offered vast amounts of money to lie to the court to get the Libyan jailed and convicted. And this appeal was due to be heard in 2009. Suddenly, you'll remember this, many people listening to this program will remember this, it's announced that this al-Makrahi is going to be released on compassionate grounds because he has weeks to live, because I think it was prostate cancer. And part of the deal was that when he's released, he drops his appeal, which he could have continued with, even though he was released on compassionate grounds. Al-Makrahi is still alive as we speak, and he was released in August, I think it was August 2009, with weeks to live, quote. And the man who decided to release him was a man called Kenny MacAskill, the Justice Minister in Scotland, of the Scottish government, and I put justice in quotes there because it's purely coincidental. And Kenny MacAskill is a former lawyer with Levy and McRae, an associate of Peter Watson, who is also refusing to deal with the Hollie Greig case. And according to some reports, his reaction to this stuff coming out through the internet of the Hollie Greig abuse and the wider story was to add additions to legislation currently passing through the Scottish Parliament, kind of under the guise of stopping stalking of people on the internet. And it's clearly designed to stop information being and people being exposed on the internet when the authorities refused to investigate a case. And so what you had, if you remember, you had